Hey y'all, this video is a response to Dan's urban survival and prepping question of what is in your bug out bag. Okay, in this first pocket we've got a knife, LED flashlight, some batteries, a lighter, a protein bar that has seen better days, also a package of Gatorade, and I think Gatorade is very overlooked in the prepping community. It's true it takes 30 days to starve to death, but if you do have to bug out or go on a long walk, most of us are not used to it. And Gatorade, it's designed for athletes. It's got some carbohydrates to keep you going. It's got electrolytes, some magnesium. It could help prevent leg cramps, could keep your blood sugar up so you can think clearly and keep moving. Also, if you were to get sick or someone you were with got sick, being able to stay hydrated, Gatorade is good for that. Another item is instant coffee, which is good because you don't need hot water to dissolve it. It's dehydrated coffee. So you could put this right in your bottle of water to give yourself some caffeine to stay awake, so that's another good thing. Okay, in the second pouch I have got some paper towels and some Dawn dish soap. Dawn is good for so many things. You can wash pretty much everything with Dawn. The reason I like carrying this is because, while I don't really think toilet paper is all that practical, a few drops of dish soap in here with some water would make fresh wet wipes that I can carry in my bag. Unlike purchased wet wipes, which tend to dry out and go bad after a few months or a year, this lets you make some fresh ones on the spot. Also got some medical supplies. This has Tylenol, aspirin. I also carry Benadryl. It's good in case there's a bug bite or something of that nature, but it's also great if you need something to help you sleep. In addition, I've got prednisone. And that is specifically because we have a lot of venomous snakes in this area. I've had 2 dogs snake bit by a baby rattler last summer, and my vet had told me in advance when I asked that prednisone and steroids and antihistamines were the main treatment they use for snake bites at his clinic. If you have ever seen pictures of snake bites, just Google snake bite necrosis, and they're pretty horrific. These drugs would specifically help prevent swelling, because a lot of times the swelling becomes so severe the doctors actually slice the skin open to keep it from ripping open. And another issue with really severe swelling from a snake bite is it's very common, if it's bad enough, you're going to get necrosis as a result, which means the skin and possibly the entire limb turns black and shrivels up and falls off. So I think prednisone's a good thing. I also have a little sewing kit in here. This is basically a needle threaded with some very strong nylon thread, which would be good for sewing up a backpack or jeans or whatever. Some reflective strips, so if I did have to walk along the highway or something, I could sew that to a backpack or poncho or whatever. Some flagging tape, which I'm not sure why I have flagging tape. I guess if I find something and I want to flag it, I could. Some extra gauze and some just waterproof bandages of various sizes. In the next rag, I've got a little bit heavier duty bandages. And one thing I find interesting in bug out bags, there seems to be 2 mindsets with preppers. 90% of them don't really care about medical supplies. They just buy a little kit because they're supposed to, and they're more interested in the tactical gear. And then maybe 10% go all out and they get really good heavy duty Israeli bandages, tourniquets, things to stop major hemorrhaging. I think those people are generally military. And this is sort of in between. But one thing, those cheap little medical kits with their little bandages and their little bits of gauze, if you're actually out trying to do something, collect water, put something up in your tent, whatever, a little bit of gauze is not going to protect a wound, right? That's fine in the front of your computer, but it's not good if you're actually working. So in here I've got some vet wrap, which I just love this stuff. This was designed for livestock originally. It's stretchy, it's water resistant, very comfortable, it pads the wound very well, and the great thing about it, you use it as a top dressing over your gauze or your pads. The best thing about it, this stuff is going to stay on until you take it off. It will stay on for days. Maybe not on a dog might take it off, but for people it's really good, very rugged. I also have, of course, some gauze, some various size gauze pads in here, some butterfly closures, some Celox, that's blood stop powder. In addition, a pair of gloves and some Nexen waterproof tape. And see, I'll show you this. I really like this stuff. It's actually supposed to be a tape where you could close bandages up with it, but it's very stretchy, it stays on really well, it is waterproof, and it's also good because it's dual purpose. It says right on the package you can use it to prevent blisters like moleskin, and of course, no matter how comfortable our shoes are, for most of us we haven't hiked 15 miles in them, so those shoes, you may get blisters, and it's a good thing to have something to prevent that. In addition, I do have a disposable razor in here that's primarily for shaving a wound on the dog if needed, and a syringe, needle and syringe. Now the syringe and needle is specifically to flush wounds. You fill it with, in my case I'd fill it with Dawn dish soap and water. The idea being you fill it up, you break the needle off, and now it gives you a good high pressure little stream of water to really blast out any debris in a cut or other wound. I mean, alternatively, those little antiseptic wipes that come with the cheap little medical kits, I don't think anyone wants to dab around inside of a wound with one of those. So, all right, so that's what I've got. It's sort of middle of the road between very light medical supplies and heavy duty. Pocket, I've got some food stuff. This is your typical standard ramen. Also have a little bit of package of dehydrated vegetables and chicken in there, just because dehydrated vegetables are just so good in ramen. And since it's sealed up, I've also got a plastic spoon and a little napkin just to keep things convenient. For the dog, I have got some dehydrated chicken breast. I also keep some dog food, but this makes a nice, something he'd really enjoy. And I usually keep some instant rice in there too, because that's something that's easy to put up. As far as what to cook with, this is one thing I actually did purchase just for the bag, and I got this on eBay, and I just love this little thing. This is a small little alcohol stove. I think I paid about $10 for it on eBay, and it just is so cute, and I just think it works. It's perfect size. What I really like about this is it's got a screw-on lid, so after you use it, and this little pot would go right on top to cook food, after you use it you can save whatever's left of your fuel by just putting the lid back on, and it seals everything up in one place. So I love this. Like I said, eBay, there's a few different manufacturers, but they're very inexpensive and very practical. Now this item is a little bit different. This is a Sony Walkman radio. You probably haven't thought of those in a few decades. I really like it because, while granted the reception is not very good on these, they get 50 hours of playtime out of just one AAA battery. So, get home or bug out situation. It would also be very easy to use, just to wear as you're walking along. The battery part is what really got me and sold me on it. It's also really good to have at the house for power outages, because those crank radios, the speakers are so scratchy on those little things, and I find to be cranking them is a real pain. This is something that, especially with battery life, is something that's easier to use long term as a form of entertainment. And as you can see, I have foil on there as protection from an EMP, although I have no idea if the foil would make any difference. In this bag, I've got basically what amounts to cheap shelter, a couple of very large Mylar blankets, 2 things of paracord, some zip ties, some matches, some duct tape, trash bags, which I'd probably use for either rainwear for me or the dog, or possibly if we had to sleep out. There's lots of leaves and pine straw. They'd be good little mattress if I had to do that. And then for shelter itself, I just bought a painter's tarp. It was like $2-3 at the dollar store. And rain is the main concern here. We don't really get a lot of cold weather. So painter's tarp would be a good way that if I had to, I could put some type of shelter up. Now for water, I do carry some water, but I do try to keep the weight down because I can only carry so much. And I debated whether I should keep a water filter in the bag. This is really purchased for the house, but it's light, and I think it would be worthwhile since there are a lot of water sources in this area. It's, of course, a Sawyer water filter. One idea for people that are in urban environments, what you might want to get is a Silcock key, which will open the outside water faucets on commercial buildings. Because if the power goes out and there's a water shortage, there's going to be a lot of clean water in those buildings. You just need a way to access it. So that's just something to think about. I also have a pair of work gloves, just to keep my hands, protect my hands if I'd have to set up a tarp or something, and some rainwear. One thought for women preppers specifically, I think if you keep a jacket in your car or you keep rainwear in your bug out bag, you might want to think about the type of environment you're going to be in when you might have to use it, and whether it would be better to choose a typical raincoat for a woman, or maybe it would be better to look a little bit more masculine. In an urban environment, an oversized black hoodie might be a good idea. If people see you at first glance, they probably would think you're male. Or a hunter's rain poncho, something along those lines. In my area, I live in the rural, very redneck South, where chivalry is very much alive, so it would be a huge advantage for me to appear to be female. Redneck men, they're much more likely to offer assistance. If I'm walking by someone's house in the country, I'd look less threatening. It would be probably a lot easier, if they're more likely to ask me if I need something, which would be a good water source too from that standpoint. So just something to think about. Appearance is important. Even if women were with men, if it's an area where you are concerned about human predators, having a man and a woman is one thing. If you look at first glance like two men walking along, it definitely makes you look like a harder target. I also have a belt. This is specifically because I do not normally carry a holstered firearm, but if I did have to take my car gun, which is a Ruger 40 cal, and I wanted to wear it on a holster, I need to have some type of belt to put it on. So I think that covers most everything that's in this bug out bag. Most everything was collected from around the house. The bag itself is very cheap from the thrift store, $2 bag. People do it differently. I'm not interested in tactical gear as much as I'm interested in things that are practical, that will make it easy for me and more comfortable for me to get home. So that's my philosophy on it. I'm sure other people have different. And also, as far as tactical gear, if I have $20 to spend on preps, unless it's something I really need, I'd rather be buying 50 pounds of rice with that. So that's another reason I don't have a lot of tactical gadgets. But anyways, that's what's in my bag, and I thank you for watching the video.